Hey, everybody.
Hey, this is Ashkahn.
This is Graham, and today's question is, what are the differences between tanks for home use and commercial use? Well, commercial use are more expensive.
Um, basically, just like everything's easier for home use.
Yeah.
Right?
And
You could
typically
have
less expensive.
And typically less expensive. You could have a commercial tank. I mean, a lot of people have what you would call a quote-unquote commercial tank in their home. And
Yeah.
there's like a lot fewer companies selling specifically home use tanks than there are just companies selling float tanks. And
Yeah, and often what that'll turn into is a home use filtration pack.
yeah,
I see more
yeah.
commonly than just a full home use tank, although obviously there are some.
Really? So, okay. So there's like the Zen float tent, which
Yep.
is specifically a home use tank. And that's the only company I know of that only sells home use. Right?
You can't see it in the audience, but in the studio I'm nodding very
Slowly
and
nodding,
just like
while he's
thoughtfully
processing.
searching my brain.
That's
think,
it. That's it.
I think that's it.
I'm
for
pretty sure.
people who
Unless there's
only do
people
that.
out there making, little custom kind
More
of one-off
DIY
or-
kind of
yeah.
float tank solutions. That's actually what I was going through.
But in terms of like a manufactured product that you can just kind of purchase, I'm pretty sure that's at least the biggest of them.
And then
and then-
Samadhi, of course, has
then
their
there's a
home
few
use
companies.
models. Yeah.
Right. Samadhi, Escape Pod, and maybe a few other companies specifically sell kind of like a home use version, commercial version. You can like look on their website and see the differences between those.
Even Oasis, I think, like markets theirs as home use versus commercial use.
Uh-huh. And in those cases, it is really, they're just selling the same actual unit most of the time. And then it's really the filtration system that's the big difference.
Yep. And then Samadhi has also some specifically home use models that you can get that are not their modified regular tank, but specifically only meant for use in residential settings.
And so why the filtration system? Why is that what's so different every time? Part of it is
You're just going to answer your own question? I thought you were asking me.
No,
I
I'm
was
setting
gearing up.
myself up, I'm about to slam this one.
All right, go for it.
What is the... Okay, so the reason is that basically in a commercial center, time is very important. Like getting someone out of their
It's
float
literally
tank.
money, yeah.
Yeah, it's literally money. Like you're trying
Maybe
to...
not
you're trying to
metaphorically money, yeah.
time equals money. And you're basically trying to get people in some sort of efficient manner. You have a schedule to keep. You want to be able to do as many floats as you can in a day. And because you filter between customers, that amount of time that it takes to filter the tank and get ready for the next person is directly tied to how long you need to wait before you can put another person into the float
Yep.
tank. So there's a lot of motivation to spend more money on bigger equipment, bigger pumps, bigger everything that goes with the bigger pumps, so that you can filter the water appropriately in 15 minutes between one person and the next and get somebody else into the float tank. That sort of pressure is not really there in your house. Like it's just it's fine if it filters for a few hours.
Yeah, all of a sudden when 15 minutes turns into 4 hours between clients coming in, that's just a way easier equation, takes way less intense filtration equipment.
Yeah.
And it makes the cost of that filtration equipment go considerably lower as well.
Because the speed is a huge part of it. Like the speed that the liquid's moving through the system dictates the size of all of your equipment. The faster everything needs to move, the bigger everything needs to be,
Yep.
the more expensive everything
The more
needs to
hardcore
be.
the seals are, so it doesn't just explode itself apart from all the water pressure. Yeah.
So it's usually not going to get to like 4 hours of filtration. But the other thing too is there's regulations and a certain amount of scrutiny that people expect out of a commercial operation that doesn't exist for homes, for all sorts of stuff, right? Like pools and hot tubs. Like if you install a pool in your backyard, the health department's not coming to make sure you're chlorinating it properly or any of that sort of stuff. And if you put a pool into a commercial facility, like they for sure, they're making sure you're doing all these things.
Yep.
And that's because the risk is a lot lower. Like if you have a pool in your backyard, what's happening in there? Like you're swimming once every week, maybe, and the other people swimming are like a few family members, or like the amount of people, like the capacity that those things are hitting, and the amount of, as a result of capacity, bacteria and all the other stuff that comes in there, that's even happening in a home use situation is so much lower than a commercial situation. And you're most likely to like get yourself sick, which I think provides some motivation for you to do some basic sanitation in your home. So, and really this is all about an actual home use thing, not like running a commercial center out of your home.
Right, which I'd still put in the commercial tank.
Yeah, that would basically,
category,
you should have a commercial tank in that scenario.
Another thing that I'll see, and you'll have tanks with liners at all different levels, but I do think that linered tanks are a little more common for home use as well.
Yeah.
Especially the Zen 10, which is one giant liner,
Uh-huh.
essentially. And I think that's to keep costs down a little bit. It's also just because there's less of a concern with having total strangers come in, day out on this really tight schedule. Eventually your liners do get worn down. Someone can just have a little piece of gravel or something on their foot and it rips the bottom of it or something like that. And in home use tanks, with it being, like you said, largely yourself, your friends, people family, coming in and not all that frequent, I think it's just a way less scary proposition having a liner in a home use setting, and that it's going to last longer and just be a little more durable in that with less use.
Yeah, I think it also has a lot to do with getting the float tank into the room you're trying to put it in.
For sure, yeah.
Right? Like in a commercial place, you're kind of like building a place, you're set up, you're trying to make hallways big enough. You're not going to like modify the construction in your house because you want to put a float tank in. So like for your home, they got to build something that can like go up narrow stairs, turn corners, and a liner means you don't all of a sudden have one giant single tub piece that needs to be able to maneuver its way around.
Yeah, for sure. Transportability is actually another big factor in the differences between home use and residential tanks, for sure. Or what did I just say? That's the same thing. Home use and commercial tanks.
I'd say the other one is there tends to be, I've noticed from home use systems, a slightly higher attention paid to really making the float tank make sure everything's dark. Because in a commercial setting, there's a lot of float tanks that don't do that, right? Like they let light in and you're supposed to build the room itself to be completely dark so that the inside of the float tank is dark. But that's way harder to do when you are installing a float tank in your house. And so there's a little bit more of a motivation, I think, to make the float tank itself take care of the light proofing for you.
Yeah, for sure. And any other? I guess the control systems are oftentimes a little less robust.
Yeah, you don't
Sometimes
need like
you'll just have switches and things on the
Right.
on the unit as opposed to a whole remote control that you're operating from your living room, I guess, in this case, or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's not really necessary. And I guess the other thing is power, right? Like there's some commercial float tanks that come at 220 volts and, their heaters might require like more amperage and stuff like that. And I think people who make float tanks for home use put a little bit more consideration into not having it be a huge power draw and having it plug into
The
a
fact
normal
people are
110.
just putting it in their garage or
Yeah.
spare room they have or something.
Yeah. Yeah,
So there you have it.
that's it.
Some differences between home and commercial use.
Great.
And, again, just to go back to something we said at the beginning, you really can use commercial use tanks in your house. It's just often, I think, like using a commercial washer and dryer in your house, right? Like it won't break anything. In fact, it'll probably last for longer. It just maybe is a little overkill for what you actually need.
And you really shouldn't use home use tanks in your commercial business.
Is the vice versa,
yeah.
Nor should you use just residential washers and dryers in general for your business. We've been finding out those things get destroyed by
Yeah,
the
they
salt
don't
panels.
last that long.
Great. And if you have your own questions you'd like to listen to us answer, go to floattanksolutions.com/podcast.
Have a good day.